I got to this place of being creatively dysregulated. Anytime I would put something in the world, I would get flooded with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, fear, trying to be better than others, recognizing that I wasn't as good as others. I don't want to talk to anybody right now. Take refuge and then disappear. I see it all the time with the people I work with. Emotional dysregulation can make it really difficult to express creativity.
Sounds familiar? Meet Kelly Wilde Miller, a creative embodiment coach and the author of the book called Creative Dysregulation.
So my question became, how can I really love the creative process, having really stable mental and emotional well-being along the way? What I found, it's a really creative process. If you can build a structure around you to support that, it strikes you and you're like, oh, nothing's gonna get better than that.
Say a little bit about your work. What do you do? What's your background?
I work with people who want to express their creativity out in the world, but typically feel blocked or have some type of resistance that shows up repeatedly. And I work with the body, emotions, somatic feedback, belief systems, anything that they've experienced in the past that still lives inside of them that gets in the way of their creativity. Really helping to basically clear the channels, so to speak, so that their ideas and inspiration can flow through them more easily.
What does creative embodiment mean? How would you define that?
This is just my own perspective and lived experience, is that creativity comes from our bodies. It moves through our bodies. So wherever inspiration comes from, it's not just a mental mind and brain-based activity. It literally excites us. And so anyone who has been inspired before knows there's like a fluttering in the chest or an increased heart rate. And then maybe they get to a point where they encounter challenge and there's a knot in their stomach, or there's some type of freezing that happens. Creative energy to me is life force energy. So it has to move through these different channels, both energetic and physical, in order to be expressed. Things like adverse childhood experiences, past challenges, any type of nervous system dysregulation or emotional dysregulation can make it really difficult to express creativity. Creative embodiment is really this idea that in order to truly be and express the creativity that's within you, it needs to come through the body. That way, it's not just this abstract idea of creativity. It's actually like, I am creativity. And so that's a whole full-bodied experience.
How do you explain people who are highly creative that just destroy themselves in their bodies? Like, do you ever think about that?
I do. I really do. I think there's an old paradigm of creativity that's being transformed right now. You know, I think about like the manic creative, the creative who wakes up in the middle of the night and like has to override their sleep to get something out of them.
Or has to be high.
Has to be high, has to be drunk, has to be some type of dissociated or out of body in a way. My theory is that that creative energy is so big and so intense that actually they don't know how to move it through the body, so they semi-dissociate in order to make it happen. And it's just not grounded. You know, I was experiencing bouts of what appeared like almost creative bipolar, where there was like bouts of almost mania to then like incredibly apathetic and incredibly down and almost numb. And that oscillation was so contrasting and so intense that at some point when I started seeing how other people created who weren't like that, it was this real light bulb moment of like, what's happening? And so I coined the term creative dysregulation, which is essentially the intersection of creativity and the nervous system. And so for myself, whenever I would go pursue an inspired idea, I would actually encounter all of the fears that lived inside of me that would do two things. Sometimes those fears would be like a wall that I would encounter, and then I would just sort of like stop to kind of would pendulum me into apathy, feeling, oh, I'm not really meant for this. Other times it was like being chased like a tiger or by a tiger. And I had to like run to the creative idea truly to save my life is how it felt. Neither of those are sustainable. They're actually not enjoyable. So my question became, how can I really love the creative process without derailing myself and having really stable mental and emotional well-being along the way?
Let's dive into that, your history with creativity and the creative process. What are some of the art forms that you engage in?
So I grew up as a dancer. I started tap dancing at age 3, tap, jazz, modern, contemporary. I went to a performing and fine arts middle and high school, which was a really cool experience. It was basically High School Musical. And when I was young, everything was, pretty easy. I definitely came out into this world as a very creative and expressive human. My mom did what most parents do. They see that there's artistic or creative capacity in their child, and then they go put them into classes. And I actually think that moment and that choice wasn't actually, in the long run, the best choice for my relationship with creativity.
Why is that?
Because at such an early age, it became about rules for dance choreography, being put in a box, and also already becoming competitive with other dancers. Because at age 3, if you're already in a performance and you're on stage, being the one in the middle versus the one on the end by the wings, there's a hierarchy there. And at that young of an age, you don't really need to be competitive, and you can really just dance for the love of it. But what turned from the love of movement and expression in dance turned into a bit of literal performance, trying to be better than others, recognizing that I wasn't as good as others, turned into something else. I call that a kink in the creative channel. The way I visualize it is creativity is like the water that comes out of a hose, and the hose is the channels inside of us. And anytime we experience something that doesn't allow that to just flow with ease, gets a kink. Just like in a hose, if it's kinked and you try to turn on the water, you get a dribble. So I, over the years, got all these kinks, and then my creativity wasn't really being expressed cleanly or in a way that brought joy. When I was 16, I fell in love with digital arts. I thought I was going to go to college to be an animator.
Really?
So I did 2D.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I fell in love with 3D animation particularly, but I did 2D and 3D. And at 17, I was so in love with animation, but I had already had like 15 years of dance experience. And then I became quite existentially conflicted, thinking I need to pick one. I can't be both of these. Even that belief, I can't be both a dancer and a digital artist.
It's a kink.
Which is a kink. Yeah. Feels so ridiculous now in hindsight, but I see it all the time with the people I work with. I can either be this or that.
Yes.
And our creativity is so multifaceted.
Yeah.
It brings us to all sorts of new curiosities and explorations. And if we have that type of belief or programming, it becomes very restricted.
Yeah.
And so it took me quite a while to recognize, I can be both of those things and more.
There's no limit. There's no number of slots. Oh, you filled your slots. That's it for you.
Yeah. People hear, you went to a performing and fine arts school. That's so amazing. And yes. And at age 11, I was asked to pick a discipline and stick to it. And in hindsight, it's whoa, I wish I had just explored musical theater and singing and guitar and painting, and just instead of trying to put myself in a box and then go be the best in that box at such a young age. I wish I had just been given free roam to say, what do you want to do? Go have fun, play with your creative energy. And so as an adult, I had this very rigid belief that I'm not a musician and I can't sing and acting is scary. All the things I didn't try when I was young, all of a sudden became unavailable to me.
Interesting.
So a big part of my creative journey has actually been in the reclamation of singing and my voice. Just in 2020, that was when it all started to shift. A friend of mine said, hey, sit down next to me. I'm going to play the piano and you sing. And it was like I had a pound of concrete in my throat. I couldn't get anything out. I started crying. I was super blocked. Literally it felt like a block, and energetically that's what it was. And over the years, throughout the pandemic, I was able to join different circles of people singing and playing music. And slowly, I moved through all those emotions that had begun at quite a young age when I would hear, just stick to dance. You're not really a singer. Now I'm singing, and someday I actually hope to have an album.
Incredible.
And so that journey has showed me that these ideas about ourselves can totally change.
Yeah.
And the path to doing that's actually in the body.
It's something that I've noticed, and also my wife Lauren works even more with this, is the persistence of identity. How once an identity is constructed, people have so much invested in that. So many different kinds of resources. Yes, financial, but also mental, physical, spiritual, reputational. Sounds like you've been through a number of pretty sharp identity shifts. And I get the sense you didn't even say like half of your bio, half of your background, but maybe you can find more chances to mention that. How does that identity evolution work?
My life's path has really been on this journey of reclaiming my authenticity and sharing that authenticity with the world. So that inevitably brings up the question of, who am I? Is my identity? What are my identities? I do believe that identity is fluid and changeable. And I also believe there's a core essence. The version of me who was 3 years old and just dancing and having a good time, like that's probably the purest identity I had. And then as we grow up, we start to take on things. We start to be asked to be a certain way by parents and school and family and culture. You know, we're this like hodgepodge of all sorts of things that we've picked up, some of which are truly ours and authentic, some of which are not. So my journey has been that of figuring out what is mine and what is not, and then how to let go of what is not. And then also how to say, like, what do I want? Actually, what are some characteristics that I could work on and that I could add into myself? And I actually think it ties in a lot with our just beliefs. Our identity is essentially this amalgamation of all the things we believe. For the longest time, I believed, well, I'm not a singer. So that's an identity. If someone said, are you a singer? Nope. But that person is. Yeah. That person has a Spotify channel, so they're a singer, but I'm not. Then as a desire and a longing became known to me of like, oh, actually, I would really love to sing. And I really liked it when I was younger. And it got put into the darkness. It got put into the shadows where I could no longer see it anymore. So it's actually this process of welcoming back parts that were disowned or shunned or shamed and reintegrating them. And so now if someone said, are you a singer? I wouldn't say yes in the sense of like, I'm not a professional singer, but like, yes, I sing. And to me, identity is something where it's like, who do I really want to be in this world? And then what is the work that needs to happen in order to embody that version? So it's a conversation, I feel like, with our inner self and with the world.
One of the furthest identities, like similar to your, being a singer, to me was like community organizer. I never ever would have thought of myself that way, seen myself that way. I wouldn't even have called myself a community member, much less a community, host or organizer. Yet moving in that direction, it has such an excitement and a aliveness and a sense of like being in this like new territory and at the precipice of something scary. It's like being at the edge of the Grand Canyon in a way that continuing to develop even more my current strengths just does not. Like that's valuable too. Amazing that we can do that. We can just move toward an identity, claim or reclaim an identity that wasn't ours, and it can become ours.
Yeah, and I oftentimes think other people can see those identities forming or see the potential of them in you before you can see them. So I bet people have been reflecting back for quite some time, like, hey, you're really good at gathering groups of people and it's so fun. Thank you so much for being the person who does this. And, in the beginning, you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm just I'm just being me.
Brush it off.
No worries.
Deflect.
And then at some point you're kind of confronted with like, oh, damn, I am really good at this. And I actually love this. And community organizing is something that I've been able to claim too. And I just finished hosting a 50-person retreat. And a couple years ago, I would never have thought that that was my job or role to do. The big one I'm working with right now is leader. Well, to be an entrepreneur is to be a leader. And to help others is to take on a generative power dynamic that puts you in the leadership role. And I've been a perpetual student my whole life. Someone who has a lot of humility to say, I have a lot more to learn. I need to keep growing. And then people kept saying like, teach. Why don't you come teach? Oh, I love when you hold space, or I love when you facilitate a group. And there was a lot of like, yeah, whatever. It's not really my thing. Recognizing, oh, I actually do love this. And I'm not going to be nearly as effective at it if I am trying to push away the identity of a leader. And if I can fully own that, then my impact and ability to lead will be a lot stronger. So this year, that looked like joining a women's leadership group, taking a leadership training course, and reading more leadership books. So I find that once the identity starts to shift, we have a ton of resources at our fingertips, whether it's, I mean, I know we'll talk about AI, but literally just, I told ChatGPT, hey, I want to become more of a leader. Keep that in mind and, help me with resources and reflections to help me do that.
Beautifully said. Yeah, that's a big identity. The leader is charged, has a lot of stuff wrapped in with that word.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good moment to pivot to annual reviews. One thing I love about annual reviews is it's kind of like an empty container. At least this is the way I think of it. I'd be curious if you think about it differently. And anything can go in the container. Like some years, it's like super left brain analytical. I'm running the numbers. I'm running, financial models. And the very next year can have none of that. And it could be like walking in the forest, trying to talk to the plants, like getting in touch with my ancestors. Like it spans the full range, and I can just pull and put in whatever I want into that box. And so I'm almost like roaming, talking to you and roaming the world, looking for new ingredients for my box. But I'm curious, how do you think about, I know you have an existing practice for a year-end reflection, but how do you think about it and how do you actually do it?
It's a really good question. And it is an evolving, living contemplation. I have not nailed this yet. So the first part of that is just this word annual. Which alludes to time, the big question of when to do an annual review. For the last couple of years, I have tried to do my annual review at the end of the calendar year. So that, 2024 to the 2025 transition is when I'm in the annual review inquiry. This past year, my husband and I did a couples retreat with another couple. They came and lived in our house for 4 days, and we all did our annual reviews together.
Cool. Oh, that's the best.
So doing it in community, I really recommend. But I also found it incredibly challenging to try and do it at that time. The reason for that is that I typically feel like the end of the year for me is actually the winter to spring transition. So I tried at the, new year, got some stuff out, got a little overwhelmed by the process, tabled it for a minute, gave myself permission to pick it back up more like mid to end of February. And then it sort of flowed through me in a more simplistic version. I was trying to overcomplicate it too. Too many questions, too many lines of inquiry, kind of forcing it to be a certain thing.
Yes.
What I wanted was something a little bit more organic, a little bit more intuitive. And because no one else was really in the energy with me at that time, I could kind of just make it my own. A big part of that for me is actually gathering all of my favorite pictures and videos of the year. I start there. I start with a visual reminder of how awesome and beautiful and colorful my year has been. And then that floods me with all the memories versus like looking back on the calendar. That's not nearly as interactive or tangible.
Yes. I'm so happy to hear that because I do the same. I start with photos, videos, and music. Because it's almost like it's the body. I have to get the body involved. Otherwise, my intellect, my mind will just plow through the whole process. Like it's a checklist.
Definitely. And it's like, well, what's the point of an annual review? Is it to, at first it was like, I just want to have this nice and needy Notion template that I can look back on that has all of my things and then move on with my life. And then I was like, well, that's not actually that helpful to have this time capsule. Haven't really actually, one of the things is I haven't gone back very much to look at them. So that's a future thing for me.
How do you do the photos? Like, what does it actually look like? Are you printing them, collecting them digitally, making an album? Like, what's the process? I really want to get into like the nitty gritty details of it.
Right now, I go through all of my photos, put them in an album, say the best of 2024, and then I will just put them all in Notion. So I literally just drop them in as images.
Like a gallery?
And then I try to make it look as nice as possible, but I can get lost in those weeds as well. So it's more just like this scrolling page of awesome photos. I try to do it chronologically, so I actually get taken through the journey of the year. And then that gives me all of this emotional material to work with, memories, the people that came into my life, the people I spent the most time with. And from there, it sort of emerges of, wow, what really happened this year? And who was I then? Who am I now? An interesting part too is seeing how do I perceive those past events now? And something that was very surprising to me and actually very difficult this past reflection cycle was I looked back with a lot of grief. And I thought, was I really present in that memory? When I was rock climbing in upstate New York over my birthday last year with these friends, was I actually thinking about work? Was I thinking about being somewhere else?
Yeah.
There's this kind of sort of like layer of like, man, I don't feel like I fully received the year
Yeah.
in the moments that I lived them.
Yeah.
And so a big practice for me this next year is, can I be fully in every moment more and more?
So there's like a feedback loop. You're learning, maybe I wasn't fully present. And that's maybe sort of like setting an intention to be more present in the coming year.
Yeah. And to me, that's why I do these reflections, is both to harvest and integrate what has happened,
Yeah.
not just keep steamrolling down my life.
Yeah.
And through that reflection process, gain some insights in, how would I like to be moving forward? What are some of the intentions or energies I want to call in?
I've noticed with the photos, a lot of people have real trouble with the photos. And I have had that trouble too. It brings up a lot of emotions. It's opening up a box of emotions: grief, heartbreak, regret, guilt, shame, embarrassment.
Wow.
It's like the
I
whole
thought I was
gamut.
alone in all this. Wow, that is really interesting to
Oh
hear.
no, like I run my course and we're taking like 100 people through this. And that's like one of probably the most, if people are like, give me the most tangible thing to do for my annual review, I say make a photo book. Choose 100. I personally choose 100 of my favorite photos. I'd say like less than a quarter can do it, at least within the time frame of a few weeks. Like in any form.
Wow.
It's like a real witnessing of a lot of emotions.
Yeah, that's so beautiful to meet those emotions. Because if we don't meet them, if we ignore them or bypass them or not do the exercise so that we avoid it, we're not actually going to be able to grow.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what these reflection processes are for, is to help our growth.
Yes. What's next, or what's the next or another part of the process?
So I aspire to be the person who does actually print out little photo books of my year.
Cool.
Along with, I have this dream that I'm the person who can scrapbook and like save the little notes that get saved up. And that's such a time consuming thing that I just haven't become that person yet. But I would like something beyond just this digital file, something I can interact with a little bit more. Maybe I'm just sitting on the couch with my husband and we let's go look at 2023. Let's go look at the year we got married and reflect on that.
It's the best. Like surprisingly, hardly ever do with digital photos.
No.
Like it just doesn't happen.
Well, and digital photos are extremely intimidating because you typically have too many of every event.
Like 20 of the
plus
same
all
photo.
your screenshots and all your other things. And so I've had this project on my task list for a year and a half now, and I call it the Great Merge. And it's merging my husband and I's photos together and then consolidating, getting rid of duplicates, finding the best of everything we've done, turning those into books. I say that it's going to be my pregnancy project for whenever we get pregnant. But I am looking still to really dial in how I do more of the, the written reflection, or maybe audible reflection. Maybe it's actually talking. Now that AI is an ally in this process, I'm more of a verbal processor. So it could just be do the photo thing, get that emotional fodder to arise, and then go for a walk and just, what is this year meant for me?
Yeah.
What did I love about it? What did I long for? What did I say I was going to do, but what actually happened? Start to track actually the patterns. One of my favorite phrases is, I'm on to myself, or I'm doing that thing that I do. And I feel like this process can really help me spotlight those things.
Yes.
And it's, I'm going to have these business milestones and I'm going to do this, that, and that, and whatever. And then I look back and I go, absolutely none of that happened.
Yeah.
And why is that? One of the big takeaways this year was I actually literally need a planner. And so I've actually started using the Full Focus Planner this year.
Amazing.
And it has changed my business and my life.
Whoa.
And because otherwise my goals just become this ephemeral thing that disappear because I typically don't go back to the document where I wrote them.
Yeah.
But my planner, it's physical. I use it every day to plan my day and my week.
Did you know that Chad Cannon, who was here last year, was responsible for creating and launching that?
Well, I knew he worked with them.
But there's a story of them in the back of a car, driving in Tennessee or wherever, and they're just like, wait, what if we made a planner? And they sketched out the whole concept on a piece of paper in the back of a car.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, that thing has helped me so much. And the other thing too is also my birthday's in 2 days. I have a bit of a reflection process around my birthday, which to me is kind of it's Kelly's new year.
There's actually many new years, I'm starting to realize. The year's just constantly restarting.
Yes, today could be a new year. And then also, instead of it being this big one annual huge process.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing it seasonally, or you can consider that quarterly. So every 3 months, I sit down and I do a little bit of a retrospective. And that's really helpful for business because you just can't course correct if you're doing it once a year.
There's a couple things I want to follow up on. For the audio reflections, you said you kind of walk in is it in nature as you answer those? Do you have a list of prompts, or are you just like free association speaking?
Both. Yeah, I think I try to just like get one big verbal brain dump out, and then after that, get a little bit more refined. I'm pretty good at laying out like a big chunk, then you could literally put that in ChatGPT and say, help me with some questions to go deeper. Where can I go deeper in what I've shared?
I wonder if is there any way to do that in real time? Like, could you just speak that directly into ChatGPT and write it like still on your walk, ask it for?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, you could just voice memo into chat your reflection. I've done that and I've had it time out on me.
Me
So
too.
I don't know when that happens. It's something before 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I almost feel like the longer you speak, the likelier it is that you'll eventually hit a limit.
Yeah.
And so then when you've been speaking for all these minutes, it's like such a feeling of loss.
It's such a loss. So I do a voice recorder. So that file is there.
Yes.
And then I just upload it.
Smart.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a good action tip. I really like that.
Or you might have to put it in Otter and then put it, But either way, don't just send it like as a message.
Yes, that's important. Do you use Otter as your voice transcription?
I do right now. Yeah.
My other question was, okay, so you have this digital collection of information that you've captured. How does that relate to then wanting to have the full focus planner and have things be on paper? Like, where is the bridge or the connection between those worlds?
In my annual and quarterly reflections, which are more digital, I'm able to map out, what are my intentions moving forward, kind of have like a guiding word or two. Sometimes it's a phrase, very tangibly, like what do I want to accomplish? And then how do I want to, more like, who do I want to be as I accomplish that? Back to this identity piece. It's not that I just want to launch a program. It's like, I want to launch a program with ease and joy and a sense of fun and play. So I kind of get these feeling words that drive me. In the full focus planner, you can map out your goals and then you map out your weeks and your days. So instead of a daily task manager or a daily project manager, I just use full focus for that. And the reason I like full focus is, I'm only looking at this one piece of paper at a time. I'm not looking at this big, complex Notion doc with subpages and toggles.
Yeah, the labyrinth.
The labyrinth of past Kelly's thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
It's there's a forcing function of brevity. And then I like that it says like your top 3. And so at least for this last quarter, that planner was awesome for me.
So it sounds like the digital is very generative and there's a lot being created, and then the paper kind of forces you to distill and just like come to a
distill and take action.
Yeah.
I would say historically, digital was not a great method for me to take action. I get in the weeds. I'm like, is this reflection pretty enough? Does it look like last year's? Are they connected? And sometimes I just got to let it go.
So true. That's one of the most important things to learn how to do.
Which is why I think like a photo album that maybe includes more than photos, but also some of the stories and the takeaways of every year would actually be the final product of a reflection. Because I would then choose, here are the quotes, here are the screenshots of text that I love, whatever I want to put in there. Here are my 3 big takeaways of who I was this year.
Yeah.
And it's in this living, encapsulated, beautiful thing that I get to interact with.
Yes.
And so I'm always more and more wondering, how can technology be an ally to my embodied living life?
Yes.
Versus this compartmentalized.
What are some other either steps in your process, mediums that you play with? Like, what else is a part of your annual reflection process?
A big part of it is doing it with other people, at least with my husband. Us sharing our own insights is a big, and asking like, help me go deeper, or what have you noticed about me this past year? What are some of the themes that have arisen for you? And then also we do a partnership reflection. So that's a whole nother topic, is how do we reflect on who we are as a marriage? We do ourselves individually, then we do the marriage and kind of our family reflection. We actually, as a couple, do a weekly reflection process, and it's been a game changer for our marriage. it reminds me to actually do my own personal weekly reflection process too would be helpful.
Does the weekly ritual inform, like do you revisit or draw from the weekly ones to inform the annual one?
Yeah, Johnny takes notes on our weekly partnership check-in. I'm grateful he does that. I think we could capture more moving forward, and then that could help feed. Because obviously, if you're reflecting once a year, there's so much you're going to forget. So
A marriage goes through like more than 4 seasons in a year. Like
yeah, definitely. Especially if both are on the growth personal development path. This is a good reminder, actually. Can we just capture all of it? Can we just record our conversations, slap them into transcripts? We don't need to do anything with them in the moment, but at least in hindsight, we could say, oh, wow, these are the big things we worked through. Here's where our ruptures and our tension has lived. What do we need to do moving forward? So yeah, that part is making it more connective with other people. This year, I tried something new. I took a workshop on reflecting on my year in a circular fashion. This woman, Sarah Jolena, she runs these workshops around circular time. So, an annual reflection process, we look at the Gregorian calendar. We kind of look at this sort of like linear January to December kind of mode. And when we reflect, it's typically down a piece of paper or down a document, an infinite document. And so what she has you do is get pen and paper, crayons and pencils, and you draw a big circle.
Whoa.
And then you say, okay, January, you basically make a 12-part pie or pizza slices, and each one is the month. And then you start to fill in. It's a really creative process. You start to fill in what are the key moments and things that happened to you. So I'm like, okay, early or mid-January, I went to Costa Rica. So I kind of draw maybe I draw a palm tree in the middle of the January slice for Costa Rica, or just a little line and say Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Start to map it that way. And then what I did is started to look at what were the phases of my year where I felt really strong, really healthy, really empowered, really like on my game, and shaded all of those months in with a certain color, green. And then what were all the times where I was kind of down, not feeling so good, off my game, filled those in with a different color.
How do you remember that? Do you look back at your calendar? Is it just intuitive?
Both. Yeah, I think I can definitely see the months where when I'm feeling really good and in my game, I've got lots going on. I'm saying yes to a lot of cool projects. I'm making stuff, shipping stuff is a big indicator that I'm feeling good. It's like stuff actually
There are signs.
that stuff makes it out of me. The months where I'm not feeling so good, kind of cancel social engagements. I don't share as much. I can literally map it to my newsletters. When am I writing and sending newsletters? When am I posting? Because when I don't feel good, I don't post. Has been a big theme. Then I've noticed, okay, with that, I'm starting to notice patterns. Wow, I don't feel very good during months where we have back-to-back obligations, or there's no spaciousness actually in that phase right now. Every day has been accounted for like 6 weeks and will be for like the next 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Knowing this about myself, which was informed from last year's reflection, I'm like, okay, I'm in one of those phases. High likelihood that I'm going to get off my game and I'm not going to feel great. What can I do? Can I cancel things? Can I create more space? Do I just need to set better boundaries? Do I need to have a couple extra coaching or therapy calls during that time? Really becomes very practical of informing future ways of orienting towards time.
Speaking of compartmentalizing identities, like even within ourselves, we tend to be like, those are practical left brain logical things that I do. And then over here is like creative, artistic, or spiritual or whatever things. But often there's such a direct jump, that bit of self-awareness, which is also based on just like kind of looking at data. Like you can look at your calendars, oh, there was only this many days and like this was taxing, then informs that insight, like a more, I guess, right brain insight of like, oh, I need spaciousness, I need rest, these things, which then jumps back to the practical. That sounds like a pretty quick loop. You don't really need to take weeks of deep inner work. Like for that specific, it does take deep inner work at different times, but like that loop is almost the thing I'm most interested in my book. Is like, I think if people had more of that kind of connection or loop, they would really tremendously benefit. And
the word that's coming up for me is intimacy. These reflection processes, when done with a true desire to learn from them, actually creates a mirror of you and how you live your life. And if you are willing to be very intimate with that data, looking back, and really get honest with yourself. There's a real self-intimacy and kind of vulnerability. I actually only felt really good half of last year. I noticed it was like 3 months I'd feel good, 3 months I felt off, and I really didn't feel good the other half. Like, how did I create the conditions for that to be my reality from that place? First, like, do I need to feel some grief, some guilt, some sadness about maybe like lost moments, not being present? And then from there, okay, what do I do moving forward with this information?
Is there any other part of the part of your annual reflection that stands out in your mind that's important? Anything you do, any practices, rituals, any modalities that you've incorporated?
I think it's very important to end or close a cycle.
Yes. Say more.
You know, I do this aligned with the seasons more often than not. End of winter, heading into spring is kind of when it seems like my sweet spot for annual reflections is. And there's a real honoring of truly the 4 seasons is in its cycle. Wherever I am in mine, can I really just look back, bless that time, be grateful, integrate whatever happened, and let it go. So I always do a releasing practice.
What does that look like?
Oftentimes it looks like writing down some of the things that I learned, some of the ways that I was that I would like to transform and maybe let go of. And also the things I'm calling in. Write them down on a piece of paper. This is so much better with other friends who are doing the same thing. You actually light it on fire. So you light...
Love it.
Yeah. You write it down, you light it on fire, and you really just sort of like visualize it releasing, letting the year go, letting, basically just like letting it go back to the soil in a way. I've actually even started doing this at the end of every day where I visualize myself basically giving my day over. For me, it's to a higher power. It's like, cool, I did my best. And it's no longer mine anymore.
Yeah.
The past is actually no longer mine anymore. Not in the way of overly identifying with it or grasping onto it or wishing it was different. There's a real surrender. And that frees me up to be more in the present. Yeah, release the year.
Yeah.
And then, then turn toward the future and say, okay, what am I really excited to create and be this year? Call that in.
Let's go down that path. So when you release that past year and turn your attention to the future, what does that part look like?
Usually looks like a lot of inspiration, a lot of hope and possibility. There's a renewal.
Yeah.
The renewal is a good word, actually.
Yes.
'Cause that's sort of like spring energy.
Yes.
This can get us into cycles here of...
We've been dancing around cyclical creativity and cycles, but we should also talk about that.
It's all the same, right? So like I'm creating my life. So an annual reflection process is a integral part of intentionally creating my life because I'm intentionally reflecting and then using that information to inform what happens in the future. Although, I can't completely control what happens. I can set intentions. It might be helpful just because I'm flirting with the idea of seasonality, just to sort of bring in cyclical creativity, anchor it into the seasons, and then I can go forth with the annual reflection. I guess I have to kind of zoom into another story a little bit.
Let's do it.
Let's go down a little tangent. For me as a creative, I got to this place of being creatively dysregulated, where anytime I would move to put something in the world, my body would panic. I would get flooded with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, fear, and I would literally felt like bumping up against an invisible wall inside of me, just kind of bump, like I just hit my head on something and I can't see what I've hit, but it's there. I started exploring all these different modalities, really going inward, and I worked with a coach who asked me to map out these sort of cycles of what was happening, of inspiration and expansion, and then the times where I'd get really contracted and step away. And we noticed there was a rhythm. Then she asked me to start mapping it onto my menstrual cycle. What I found is that I was trying to do creative tasks that were inappropriate for the hormonal makeup at that time in my body. Very quickly, there's the menstrual cycle or menstrual phase, follicular, ovulation, and luteal. And so those 4 phases of a woman's menstrual cycle actually archetypally mirror the 4 seasons.
Wow.
There's a really cool book called Wild Power, and they talk about it's your inner winter, your inner spring, your inner summer, and your inner fall.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
It blew my mind. That then sent me down this whole portal of exploring my own bodies, my own rhythms, but then also getting really fascinated by the 4 seasons. The time I lived in Boulder, Colorado, we have 4 distinct seasons there. Basically, All humans experience this, doesn't matter if you have a menstrual cycle or not. And I've noticed that everyone understands. Winter is a time of rest, recalibration, reflection, the time where earliest inklings of creative ideas are there, but they're usually unconscious. They're below the soil, if you will. And then we get into a spring phase of a cycle, and that's like new life. Inspiration becomes more aware. It's like the little seedlings are rising, but it's innocent, it's young, it's new. It doesn't quite have its rooting yet. And then give it some time, nourishment, turns into summer. And that is when things are rooted, tall, bright, big, blooming, full expression. Autumn or fall, starts to drop the leaves, starts to slow down, start to come inward a little bit. Harvest, it's a time of harvest, celebration, and then back into winter. And how this maps onto a project or creativity, let's imagine the moment before you are like consciously aware of your inspiration. Your life has been you've been gathering all this stuff along the way, and then someday it strikes you and you're like, idea.
Yes.
So that is like winter into spring.
Yeah.
And then you start to water that idea. You start to tend to it. In the beginning, you want your idea to have air and breathe, and you're fertilizing it, if you will.
Yeah.
It's a big time of experimenting. I don't know what this is going to be, but I'm just going to try some stuff, see what's happening. You stay innocent, stay curious. Don't force the project to be anything more mature than it really is.
Yes.
And then with enough of that phase, it matures into its summer. And this doesn't have to be a 3-month cycle. Each thing can be years.
Yeah.
And then that summer is peak productivity. It's sales, it's marketing, it's putting it out in the world, it's sharing, it's in its full expression. Autumn, you start winding a project down, start to reflect. How did that go? What did we learn? Maybe you iterate and you kind of like, there's cycles within cycles. So that you go through iterative cycles and then you kind of come back and re-experiment. So you kind of pendulum back into spring. And then at some point you're done. You kind of let the thing go. What I found is in my own journey and with a lot of other creators, they have a really hard time of letting it go and fully ending a project.
Yes.
And letting themselves be back in the void of not knowing, which is winter. And there's a real panic of like, oh, I don't have a next idea. It's like, trust me, you do. And it's in there. It just needs some time. So I'll pause there because I said a lot, but I know how this reflects or connects to annual reflection processes.
I think this thing with the seasons is one of the most powerful, I don't want to say frameworks, it's just the world we live in,
To me, it's a blueprint that's been given to us by nature.
Yes.
And as we remember that we too are nature, we're not separate.
Yeah.
And that, things in our life happen in a similar type of cycle.
I think that's so true. Yeah, it's a blueprint. It's also just the literal weather and environment that we live in. It's a natural process. It's in line with the laws of physics and the laws of biology and just like energy, just, the way physical matter works. It's extremely powerful. I'm kind of nodding in recognition because I was introduced to this through, Jacqueline Susskind. She wrote a book called A Year in Practice where she mapped out what she does in each stage of the year. As I was reading it and reflecting on it, I realized that I grew up in Southern California and Brazil, both places that have no seasons. Reading this was a revelation because I have never consciously mapped anything I do to seasons. But then the more I look back, the more I realized, I remember one time we'd often go to Brazil, in the northern hemisphere winter, end of December, beginning of January. And I remember one time I went with my family, we were 2 weeks at this beautiful house on the beach. So even though that was really hot and tropical on the beach, it was a winter in that it was like a school break and it was about family and sort of resting. But I was in a summer mode. And so I was I had all these productivity books, books on tape. I'm pacing up and down the beach, taking notes. And everyone was like, Tiago, what is wrong with you? You're not enjoying any of this. And all I felt the whole time was tension, clash, conflict. I was neither resting nor was I particularly being productive.
Yeah.
And I can recall many moments like that.
Yeah. You have your own cycles and rhythms I have my own, and nature has its own. Sometimes they align. You know, sometimes I get my biggest surge of productivity in the middle of snowy winter in Boulder. And sometimes I also need deep hibernation.
So what is happening there? Is that like a mini cycle within winter?
I think so. Like I now reliably, after tracking this for the last 3 years, I know that come November, I'm done. I cannot initiate something in November. I absolutely have to wind things down.
Yes.
And if I don't wind it down in time, I probably will just step away and it'll be really awkward.
Yeah.
Like I'll just never email I'll just like, whoops, I just disappeared.
Yeah.
I have mapped literally my entrepreneurial and business strategies onto that knowing. Then I only kind of need about 2 months, it seems, to be in deep hibernation. And so about mid to late Jan is when I'm like, hello, I have all these fun ideas.
Yes.
And so I kind of enter spring a little earlier than nature enters spring. And so that's cool. Like I don't need to read too much into that. But what I have found is, so we live in a summer dominated culture. Like archetypally, the West, all summer.
Interesting.
That's like all visibility, peak productivity. It's a very masculine energy. It's like, let's go, go, go. Hustle culture is summer on steroids.
Interesting.
And so the overextension of any one season, we can see it. The overextension of summer energy is burnout. And the antidote is winter. The antidote is rest. And since I now know this, I don't overextend myself in my summer seasons, whether it's like literal summer or my own summer energy. I always sprinkle in rest so that by the time it comes to winter, I don't feel fully exhausted and depleted. But when people will get burned out and they're forced to rest through adrenal fatigue or what have you, to me, that's nature trying to course correct and show us, hey, we've got rhythms. You can't be in summer mode the whole time. And the analogy I'd love to use that also helps make this land for most people, there's 2 versions of a light switch. The old paradigm is that we live like a up and down light switch. We are either fully on or fully off. The lights are on or the lights are off. That's like summer, winter. We're more like a dial, like a dimmer switch, right? Where it's like off to kind of on to fully on to then kind of off to fully off. And so the 2 seasons that I think people actually can find a lot of insight in is actually the spring and fall seasons of a project and of their own energy.
Interesting.
And those are the energies of gradual on, taking your time to ramp up and taking your time to ramp down. So, instead of getting an inspired idea and then like running out the gate, which is what my kind of manic, I gotta do it sort of energy was forcing me to behave like. Instead, really embracing that early stage of like, I don't know, I'm just gonna try some things and keep it a little light and let commitment grow as the roots grow with time.
I've noticed this too. There's the overarching calendar, but then every individual project goes through its seasons.
Yes.
And sometimes it's actually helpful if those are offset. If there's too many projects all in, let's say, summer, then they're all competing for the same resource.
Yeah.
I think my principle that I've adopted for this is to just constantly be planting. Because I know like every significant project seems to take 3 to 6 months to bear fruit. So that means if I want to like keep making progress on my goals or whatever I'm trying to accomplish, I need to be just planting. What that means is on a regular cadence, things are bearing fruit.
Yeah.
Like we just launched our app last week and that was a 5-month process. If I hadn't planted it January, we wouldn't be having it in May.
That's like the summer, that launch is a summer mode, kind of summer fall, because there's like the fruit, a bit of like the fruit there. And I know you're at the very beginning stage of the master prompt method.
Yes.
And so that's like this spring
Yes.
beta cohort.
Yes.
It's perfectly archetypally spring of experimenting. And I love that. I really think as creatives, we are gardeners. We are planting our garden of inspiration. Sometimes other people come in and plant and garden with us. And we're just tending. You tend to your ideas. And sometimes ideas need a little pruning and snipping. And sometimes ideas need to be fully ripped out of the ground and actually composted.
Yeah.
Other ideas you might tend to for a decade or more as it becomes this glorious oak tree that then shades and provides shelter and nourishment for lots of other beings.
Absolutely.
Like I literally think building a second brain is most definitely a tree
Yeah.
of some sort.
Yeah.
And that could be fun to think about what kind of tree. And in that tree, people come for shade, nourishment, refuge, growth, connection, meeting other beings.
And it's been through so many seasons. It really has, literal and metaphorical.
Yeah, which creates what?
Growth,
Resilience.
maturity, resilience.
Yeah.
And I've played, I guess it's like my identity as the gardener of that tree has also changed radically. Like in the early days, it was like on life support. If I had stopped for even a week, it would have completely died. It was like I was like drip watering with an eyedropper, you know?
Yeah.
And
now you probably like, it's good.
Now I keep trying to like stop it and walk away, but it's like, or I in a way am stepping back from it and turning my attention more toward AI, but it's growing on its own accord.
Yeah.
And like has other people to take care of it. And it's like, damn, that's a huge like oak tree.
Yeah. Just like as a baby sapling, it does need that tender and, care. We were just on my husband's uncle's farm in Wales, and they planted all these new trees, and they're surrounded by chicken wire to protect them from the critters and the whoever is trying to get in on those very thin, vulnerable trees. Someday they'll be full-fledged trees and they don't need protection. For the longest time, I was unable to launch my podcast. And so when my coach at the time helped me map things to my menstrual cycle and the 4 seasons and just seeing the cyclical nature of creative projects, for the first time in my life, I was able to launch something, truly launch something, and then not run away. So I have this pattern called launch and hide. I launch and then I go take refuge and then disappear because I'm completely overwhelmed by the visibility of it and the vulnerability of it. And so that to me was like, oh, whoa, I now have a blueprint to create anything of any magnitude if I just simply allow its cycles to unfold.
What was different about that experience, that launch? What had you changed? What had you shifted? How were you able to do that?
Yeah, so actually just taking all of this and grounding it into very practical steps is it informed what I did when and with what energy. So this is a little bit more obvious for women who menstruate, who have a natural menstrual cycle, is that on a day-to-day basis, I'm a very different person, different cognitive capacities, different strengths, different lens that I see the world. Before, I would just do whatever task I thought I needed to do in whatever day. It was inappropriate. It was inappropriately placed in my month. So for instance, let's say a launch. A launch is very visible. It's high energy. You kind of need to have your resources and feel ready to talk and be seen and share. So if I did that while premenstrual in my inner autumn, not good. Because that is a time of almost consider it like my inner November, when my whole body's like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody right now. But if I had said, no, but that's launch day, it'd be a real recipe for disaster. It's just a mismatch.
It's funny that Black Friday is in November, just random side observation.
Yeah, we're vulnerable. We're like, oh, take my money. I have no resources left. Yeah, if that was in July, I think a lot of people would ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I very practically did is say, nope, launching happens in the first half of my cycle, in my inner summer, more or less. Just that little tweak. And other things like I'm creative at certain times where it feels like I'm innovative and exploratorily creative. Sometimes I am a better writer. So that was a big thing of like, I'm not a copywriter every day. There are times when that comes through naturally, and there's times where that's really hard. So I just started to figure out that mapping for myself, and I encourage everybody to do it regardless of gender, of when do you actually feel most enlivened for a certain type of task. And if you track it for long enough, and you can literally make a tracker on Notion, or you can have a daily journal. I'm tracking how social I am, how much I love communication. Do I want to do deep work? Am I in the details oriented work? And just check, this is what felt natural. Especially for entrepreneurs, if you can give yourself time to actually show up every day and just go, what actually feels good right now?
Yes.
Versus what did me 1 month ago say I needed to do today?
Which is, by the way, utterly contrary to all productivity advice. Like,
yes. Yeah. So cyclical productivity, the way I would relate to that is it offers us a blueprint to look forward and make educated guesses about how we will feel and what we will thrive doing. And the more you track, the more accurate that will become. But the second skill to pair with it, which is really only easy for entrepreneurs who have total time agency can adopt is what I call emergent listening and emergent course correction. So let's say Kelly 2 weeks ago said that I was going to launch something. Ovulation Kelly said that I was going to launch something in 2 weeks. Well, now I'm in my winter, and I hate that Kelly. She said that I do not have the energy to meet that demand. So in real time, I would say, if my business is constructed around this, no. I'm gonna rest actually, and I'm pushing that launch another week or two. So I've done this a lot. I'm very I tiptoe around declarations of days and times.
Yeah.
So I kind of say, like, generally, I'll announce this thing in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because if I put myself a literal, like, it comes at noon on next Friday, there's a strong chance that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
This is part of embodied creativity, is really attuning to what does your body want to do? Where is that aliveness? You talked about aliveness. Where does that want to go? And if you have lots of different projects, giving yourself the space to really tune in each day and see what genuinely lights you up.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is what authentic entrepreneurship that is aligned and designed for you, like, that's the money right there.
Yeah.
When you show up every day and you just love the task that you're doing, not the task that you should do.
Yeah. I found that that's consistently in my entrepreneurial journey. I have to relearn it like every year, but what makes me excited, what I'm drawn to, what inspires aliveness is not only the best North Star for, of course, what I'll enjoy, what I'll have fun doing, but also what's most effective, what's most impactful, what grows the business.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to me that I keep turning away from that. I don't know if it's like I start turning towards obligation or like fulfilling on exactly the plans my past self made, or trying to do what someone else is doing that I'm trying to model myself off of. But then I just have to return. And often it's like, it's sometimes hard because you have to give up certain things. Like when I tell my team, for example, there's still a part of me that's like almost embarrassed to say, you guys, I just really want to do what I feel like doing. Like it almost feels, even though I'm the boss, like sometimes they have to say, Tiago, you're the boss. Whatever you want to do, we'll do. And in fact, we'll have more fun because you'll be having more fun. I don't know why there's something in me that forgets that.
It's almost like, how much permission have you given yourself to feel good?
Not 100%, some lower percentage than that.
Yeah. And, I can look back historically and I can look at the school system. You just show up and you do the classes and you do the things and you do it whether you want to do it or not. And how a lot of more like new age alternative schools or Montessori schools, the whole point of early education is, what do you want to do? And to follow that innate curiosity. So if we weren't raised to just always follow our innate joy and curiosity, which I would say 90% plus of adults were not, it's actually quite a journey to reclaim that joy and to know a big part. Something I'm working on right now is called the Genius and Joy Assessment. Is how do I stop working in my zone of competency and start working in my zone of joy and genius?
Love it.
And it took me a while to even trust joy. I would feel it and I'd be like, oh, don't go there. Yeah, when you're good at a lot of things, but you don't really love doing it, it takes a lot of reflection to even recognize that.
I love that it's not, the basic level is going from the zone of incompetence to competence.
That's better.
Yeah, right? But then you also, and it's even harder to go from competence when you are good at it, to joy.
Yeah.
That's another jump.
The tasks that fill your cup, when you find those, and if you can build and construct a structure around you to support that. I'm still in the progress of doing that. I think that's the real, oh my gosh. Nothing's going to get better than that. When your work, when your creations, when your pursuits fill your cup, not just drain it. But you also have to allow and actually let yourself have your cup filled. And kind of back to the summer dominated culture, I think it's become just the norm to like not feel great.
Or just not feel.
Or not feel. And so recognizing that, like, oh, I don't feel good. I would like to feel good. And what do I have to do to feel good? And I do think cyclical creativity gives us a blueprint to figuring that out.
I wanted to ask you, if people want to learn more about you, your work with you, read your writing, listen to your podcast, where should they go?
My website is kellywildemiller.com. Wild has an E at the end. And my blog and podcast are called Wild on Purpose. That one does not have an E at the end of wild, just to keep it a little confusing. It's all linked, though, on my website. And so I write about my own journey of really reclaiming joy and creativity, as well as sharing guidance, stories, advice from what I discover coaching people in this way. And yeah, I'm a coach. I run 6-month programs for groups of people to come together and explore embodied creativity as well. And we'll see what happens after this weekend, but there's ideas percolating around, how to integrate AI into being an ally for all of this as well. So stay tuned.
And say a bit about your book, about the Creative Dysregulation book.
I published the first version of my book. It's out on Kindle. It's called Creative Dysregulation: Why Your Creativity is Chaotic and What to Do About It. I am in the process of rewriting it and deepening the research.
Amazing.
I initially wrote it and published it in 5 days. So
incredible.
When people hear that, they'll have one of two reactions. That's amazing, or that's got to be a terrible book. The feedback's been that the book is actually pretty darn good. I have a lot of friends telling me to not rewrite it, but I feel very passionately that this topic has a lot in it.
Yeah.
And so
it's a good viral hook for sure.
Yeah.
It just hooks you.
The 5-day book.
Right.
And so now I thought it would then be the 5-month book, and it's increasingly becoming the 2+ year book. So we will see when that rewrite comes out, but they can get the first version. I also have an accompanying self-assessment called the Creative Regulation Assessment, and we can link that in the show notes.
Incredible.
And that will give them a very clear and customized insight into why they might be experiencing some of that nervous system dysregulation when they pursue creativity. And ultimately, it's to bring more awareness than just saying, I have creative blocks. Like, what is a block?
Yeah.
That is what this research has been exploring.
It's so interesting that like creativity and nervous system regulation, those wouldn't seem to have anything to do with each other unless you are a creative and you know how much they have to do with each other.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been explored. I've never heard of any book that addresses that.
Yeah.
I really love it.
Well, if we live in this summer-dominated culture where the creative parts that are most celebrated are sales, metrics, visibility, we don't celebrate the behind-the-scenes work quite as much. The shadow of that being burnout, that's a nervous system response. Is like creativity overdoing it on our nervous system. And so how do we actually develop more regulation skills? And one of the ways of doing that is to create according to those 4 seasonal blueprints, which just give us a map of never overdoing it, but staying consistent. So instead of taking big bouts of time away to recover, we're just kind of always tending to that garden, but never getting out of control with it either.
That was a beautiful combination and wrapping up of everything that we talked about.
Yeah.
So put a bow on it. You heard it here. Amazing. Thank you for joining me at this retreat and also on the channel.
Yeah,
Kelly.
thank you, Tiago. This was super fun. Let's keep tending to our gardens.
Let's do it. Agreed.